Angles. The line or path which has an inclination with the horizontal or another line or path is called an angle. We can see innumerable angles in our everyday life. A man is sitting under a tree, fishing from a pond. Observe the angles formed. Let us learn about angles in detail. Measurement in triangles involves measurement of its angles. In geometry, the angles considered are less than 2 right angles, but in trigonometry, the concept of an angle is extended to include positive and negative angles of any magnitude. The angle as defined by Euclid is the inclination of straight lines that meet. In other words, an angle is the geometric configuration formed by 2 rays, say L1 and L2, not lying on the same line, having a common endpoint. But this definition of an angle is not applicable to positive and negative angles and angles of any magnitude. An angle is defined as the union of 2 rays with a common endpoint, O, together with rotation in the plane necessary to bring one ray, the initial side L1, into the position of the other ray, the terminal side L2. If A and B are points on L1 and L2 respectively, then the resulting geometric figure is referred to as angle AOB. The endpoint O, about which the ray rotates, is called the vertex of the angle. If the rotation is in anti-clockwise direction, the angle is then regarded as positive. If it is in a clockwise direction, the angle is then regarded as negative. We indicate the direction and magnitude of rotation by a curved arrow. The magnitude or direction of rotation is not restricted in any way. Thus, L1 may make several revolutions in either directions about O before coming to the position L2. If a rectangular coordinate system is introduced, then the standard position of an angle is obtained by taking the vertex as the origin and letting L1 coincide with the positive x-axis OX. We often denote angles by A, B, C, and also by Greek letters alpha, beta, gamma, delta, theta, phi, psi. Here, alpha and beta are the 2 positive angles, and gamma and delta are the 2 negative angles. If the terminal side L2 is in a certain quadrant, then we speak of the angle being in that quadrant. Thus, alpha is in the 2nd quadrant, beta is in the 1st quadrant, gamma is in the 3rd quadrant, and delta is in the 4th quadrant. If L2 is the coordinate axis, then the angle is called a quadrate angle. It is important to observe that there are many different angles formed in the standard position, which have the same terminal side. Any 2 such angles are called coterminal angles. Angles of elevation and depression. When an observer sees an object above him, there is an angle of elevation between the observer's line of sight to the object and the horizontal. When the object is below the level of the observer, then the angle between the observer's line of sight to the object and the horizontal is called the angle of depression. Summary. The angle is defined by Euclid as the inclination of straight lines that meet. If the rotation is in anti-clockwise direction, the angle is then regarded as positive. If it is in a clockwise direction, the angle is then regarded as negative. When an observer sees an object above him, there is an angle of elevation between the observer's line of sight to the object and the horizontal. When the object is below the level of the observer, then the angle between the observer's line of sight to the object and the horizontal is called the angle of depression.